Good afternoon, everyone, and once again, thank you so much for joining us today for the second webinar in this series. Today, we are very pleased to have Kalam Neale from British Esports here to talk to you all. Kalam is the Head of Education at British Esports and is going to be taking us through who they are, their educational curriculum, qualifications, and the Esports League. As always, there will be a Q&A session at the end of Kalam's session, and if any of you want to ask a question, then please feel free to use the chat box to post them up, and we'll try to get through as many as we can. Welcome, Kalam. It's great to have you here today, and thanks for taking the time out to speak to our members.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to speak to everyone.
Wonderful. I'm sure this is going to be a very, very informative session, and I'll hand it over to you now.
Brilliant. Thank you. So I've just posted a quick message in the comments where you can find our website. So if there's anything from today where people want to follow up and want to find out more information, then you can find us at britishesports.org. So yes, good afternoon. My name is Kalam Neale and I'm the Head of Education at British Esports. I'm here to talk to you more today about who we are as an organisation, about our esports curriculum, how you can get involved, and also a little bit more about our student championships as well, which is another really exciting avenue for students within schools and colleges to actually represent their school or their college, their local area. So yeah, it's really, really great to join you all, and thank you for joining us. So British Esports Federation, we were formerly known as the British Esports Association, and we are the national body for esports in the United Kingdom. We were established in 2016 after we were given permission by the UK government. We run the British Esports Student Champs, as I've mentioned. We also have our Women in Esports initiative, which is a globally award-winning initiative to provide a safe space for women in esports, for young girls, and for underrepresented genders to take part in esports and to find a safe space and safe community. And I'm also going to talk to you today a little bit more about our National Esports Performance Campus, which is opening in Sunderland, which is another incredibly exciting development. A little bit more about me, just as a quick brief and background. Who am I? So as I mentioned to you there, Head of Education at British Esports. I also work as Director of Education at an organisation called EduGeek Esports Group, where I've had lots of experience in helping other institutions to set up esports facilities and clubs and curricula. I also work for Pearson, who, as British Esports, they are our awarding organisation partner, who we co-wrote the BTECs in Esports with, which launched in 2020, which I'll speak to you more about today. So I work as a trainer and podcast host on the UK and international team there. I'm a governor at Barnsley College, which is where I worked previously for 11 years in further education, and during that time led our esports and sports curriculum areas, and set up in 2018 the UK's first esports study programme within further education. So that then led me to come and work with British Esports and with Pearson as one of the writers and one of the creators and developers of the curriculum that we have to date. And last year I was also recognised with a national award for digital innovation. So there are a number of ways you can get involved with us after today as well. We do the esports zone. So we run the esports zone at the Bet Show every year. And there's an image of that down there. So you can join us at Bet again, which is coming up in early 2024. And we also run an annual esports and education summit, where again, you'll be able to join us in the early part of next year in February, where you can come along and you can meet our staff and you can find out a bit more about how we can help you get started on your esports journey. A little bit more about British Esports, just to set the scene. So we are a founding member of the IOC's, that's the International Olympic Committee's Esports and Gaming Liaison Group, and we're the recognised member of the Global Esports Federation, of which there are over 130 member federations around the world now, for Great Britain, so England, Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland. And we're responsible for the participation in global esports games of the athletes from GB. So we essentially will be behind the selection process for Team GB in any of those games, and we also act as the umbrella organisation for the home nation associations during those tournaments as well. So we fully operate Esports England, and then we're also that umbrella for Esports Northern Ireland, Wales, and for Scotland as well. We in August 2022 helped to facilitate and to run the inaugural Commonwealth Esports Championships, which were in Birmingham, which sat alongside the Commonwealth Games. And as you can see from the medals tables, we did quite well across England, Wales, Northern Ireland, and Scotland there, finishing 2nd to 5th respectively. So at the top level, at the performance level, we're doing really, really well. But what's key to us is about providing some of those pathways for grassroots esports and talent identification to actually develop further into the national teams. And I'll talk to you a bit more about that today when it comes to our National Esports Performance Campus. But some of you may be familiar, and for some of you, this may be the first time that you're hearing about esports. So again, to set the scene, what is esports? Very simply, esports is defined as electronic sports. It's organized, competitive video gaming where people play against each other online and also in a live format as well. It's not playing a video game on your own. It's not playing against AI. It's not completing career mode. It's not playing a game by yourself on your mobile phone. This is human versus human. It's competitive, and more often than not, as I said, it's in teams as well. And because of that reason, and when we are playing in teams, that's when we really start to see these skills coming out, as we do in traditional sports. So we're talking about things like teamwork and communication and strategic thinking and the ability to react under pressure, the ability to process data in real time and then find solutions to those problems. Some of you, again, may have been familiar with that. You may play some of those games yourselves. You may compete in esports yourselves. But for some people, it may be a brand new concept and you may not have seen it before. So I'll talk to you a little bit today about what we've done over the last few years and some of the impact that we've seen as well. Esports is fully inclusive. And that's key, is that unlike a traditional sport where age or gender or ability or disability play a huge role in who you can play with or against, in esports, if you have access to the kit and to the equipment, anyone can play, regardless of age or any of those barriers that may exist in other sports. A number of different formats, ranging from 1v1 individual play right through to some of those team-based games. And on screen there are some of those titles. So you may recognize some of those games titles, but ultimately they are some of the main titles that are played now competitively across the globe in terms of esports. The next slide here, and highlighted in red, are the games publishers. It's important to recognize within esports that everything is owned by the games publishers. So if we want to create any tournaments, or when you see these tournaments happening on large scales, you have to have permission of the games publishers. If you're wanting to develop community-based tournaments, then there are rules per game, which again, we're lucky that within our student champs, we're able to work with the games publishers to provide these opportunities for young people. But what you should see on screen now are a variety of different industry leading bodies and organizations that are involved in esports. And some of those you may recognize, again, some of them you may not. But what's key about this is that we have an ecosystem that surrounds the esports industry now. The esports industry is one of the fastest growing industries in the world, on track to become a $1.6 billion industry this year. And we're seeing significant investment from brands, from sponsors, from partners in the industry and in and around the ecosystem. And one of the key points that I always like to point people back to dates back to 2018, which is really when my esports journey started at Barnsley College, as I mentioned to you, where we started to recognize what was happening in the industry. In the US universities had started to offer esports scholarships in 2018. And in the UK, we had the first esports degree that launched in 2018. So that set me off on the journey of, well, what exists then within further education, and what are we providing for school leavers to actually be able to access this industry as a new and emerging professional industry. This stat also appeared then from the League of Legends finals in 2018. Now, when we're trying to address misconceptions, and when people are often at the start of that journey trying to understand what this industry is and what the jobs are, this was a key stat that was released then and ESPN published in 2020. The 2018 Super Bowl had 96 million viewers. So most people know what the Super Bowl is. They recognise that it's one of the most watched sporting events of the calendar year. We recognise the halftime show. There'll be famous artists performing at halftime. There are lots of rooms for brands and sponsors and advertisements. In order for that amount of people to consume a live event, we need broadcasters, we need publishers, we need journalists, we need commentators, etc. There's the players, and it's the same in esports, but the players then, they have team owners, they have CEOs, they have coaches, they have psychologists, they have dietitians, they have sports therapists, they have analysts. It's the same in esports. So what started to emerge then is that actually across the League of Legends finals that happened that year, there were 98 million people tuned in to watch those finals. So started to be able to say, well, if there are that many eyeballs on tournaments, then here's something that lots of people are now going to be interested in, and hence part of the esports boom and phenomenon that's existed over the last few years. On screen again, you've got some images there of esports stages, esports arenas. We're talking about thousands of people coming into live arenas to watch these events. So again, with the online viewership and the in-person viewership, we're talking about performing in front of people, which brings anxieties and stresses, and we need that psychological support. We're talking about high-level performance here, where milliseconds can be the difference between winning and losing, how you deal with pressure, how you prepare for these types of games. So these are some of the real similarities to sport. Another image that I really like, and again, to show you the size and scale of the industry, pre-COVID, again, the International in 2019, which was a Dota tournament, had a prize pool of almost $35 million and 18 teams. The winning team of 5 players won $11 million that year. So again, we're talking huge viewership, we're talking huge prize pools, and again, the professionalization here of an industry. What I really like about this image is, again, you can see that this is a real live production and live event. We've got lots of people in the audience around the arena. We've got sponsors, we've got advertising boards. Look at the staging, look at the lighting. Think about the stage, lighting, sound engineers. Think about the events management that needs to actually take place in order for these large scale events to happen. On the stage, you've got dancers, you've got costumes, you've got a full live orchestra down there at bottom. And then down there at the right-hand side, you've got a production gallery. So again, all of these key production skills, event management skills are now needed within the esports industry. Just fast forwarding a little bit to 2021, sticking with the international again, increased the prize pool to $40 million and an increased prize for first place there of $18.2 million in Romania. As we fast forward again now to 2023, the Saudi Arabian esports tournament organised by Gamers8 recently announced a prize pool of $45 million, so therefore breaking the record again. So hopefully some of these numbers and stats start to open eyes and minds to what's going off in the esports landscape, which lots of people, especially lots of parents of the students that are coming through our education system, they aren't aware that this is happening. Fast forward again now to where we are, to June and July. We've just had the Olympic Esports Series, where for the first time we saw the Olympic rings above an esports stage in Singapore. And we've also just had the European Esports Championships in Poland, where as Team GB, we were incredibly proud that we had our eFootball and Rocket League players over there who managed to both secure silver medals respectively, one in eFootball and one in Rocket League. So on the screen there, you see the team manager, the coach, and the performance coach along with the players. So an incredible performance from our GB team last week as well. So hopefully that starts to show you what's happening at the top level, and at the elite level. Aside from that, what's actually happening at grassroots level, and how can we and how can you all get involved? The first of those things is the British Esports Student Champs. This also started in 2018 as a pilot, and we're now in the 5th year of our student championships. And we had our finals 2 weekends ago at Confetti Institute in Nottingham. And this is students competing against other students. This happens throughout the academic year. So students will compete from their own school or from their own college. And what we're finding is this is providing an excellent opportunity for students to represent. Some of those students are students that are represented the traditional sports teams, or they might have been in the music club or the drama club. But a large majority of these students have not had that opportunity before. They haven't played sport before. So these are providing real life opportunities for students to form communities, to become part of teams, and to actually represent their school or their college in a national tournament, competing against teams from all over the UK in a variety of different games titles. At our finals that we just had, over the course of the Saturday and Sunday, over 250,000 people tuned in to watch students taking part in this tournament. So again, one of the things that we can now be quite confident about and quite bullish about when we talk to senior leaders in schools is around representation and how many people tune in to watch local school, college, football matches, rugby matches, cricket matches, netball matches, etc. It's not over 250,000, but we are there now. And to give you an example of that, on a weekly basis, during the time that I was at Barnsley College, in one of our opening Rocket League fixtures that we played. So we had Barnsley College students, 3 students playing Rocket League against Queen Mary's College down in Basingstoke. We had about 4,000 people tuned in live to watch that event, and within 24 hours, that fixture had over 18,000 views, and that's just 3 students playing against 3 students in another part of the UK. So again, we're talking significant opportunities here for young people to represent and to be part of the team. We run tournaments in 4 games titles. They are Rocket League, Overwatch 2, Valorant, and League of Legends. And what I've got now for you is a short clip that'll just show you the highlights of our Student Champs 2022 season.
Welcome to the British Esports 2022 Student Champs Grand Finals! Our journey began back in September with over 143 colleges, 700 teams, and 3,200 players, and it all ends this weekend. 20 teams, 1 victory away from putting their names down in the history books as the best in the country.
hopefully what that video has shown you is the excitement, and you could tell by you can tell from the students' faces there what they're involved in and how actually exciting this is, and that it culminates in this grand finals on an amazing stage in front of a live audience, which is something that lots of students have never experienced before. So we're seeing huge growth in terms of Valorant there. You can see that we've had a growth in the amount of players that have taken part in the Valorant title. It's the same story in Overwatch 2, grown in numbers again. Same in Rocket League, growth in numbers and growth in players, and also the same in League of Legends. In terms of participation over that tournament, we have roughly 5,000 students weekly that take part in that tournament, and that culminates, as you've seen there, in those grand finals. One question that people always ask is around setup and cost and licenses and things like that for games. That's the sort of thing that we can support you with through initial conversations. On our website, we've got teachers' handbooks, we've got information about each of the game's titles, which ports need to be open, which IP addresses need to be available. We've got a parents and carers guide, which we wrote in collaboration with the NSPCC, which is on our website as well, which you can share with parents who might be worried about anything from a safeguarding perspective. All of our students that take part in the championships have to be registered by teachers, and it's teachers that control the setting up of the games and the setting up of the fixtures. So that there are no people that are taking part that are unrecognized or that we don't know. All of the chat on our social channels and through our game channels is moderated so that it flags any issues or any toxicity or any abuse. There's a reporting system, so it's a really safe space for young people to interact and to engage and to compete as well. In terms of the academic pathways then that sit alongside that, as I mentioned earlier, we co-created the BTECs in Esports, which launched back in 2020. So as I said, we've seen huge growth in our student champs, but we've also seen huge growth in the amount of students that are taking part in the BTEC qualifications. You can see on the screen there that we had 15 centres and 330 students that started this in September when this launched. And last academic year, we had 86 centres and 2,300 students. And now into year 3, we've got over 140 plus centres that are delivering and over 5,500 students. That number is set to grow again next year to over 8,000 and over 200 approved centres as well. So you can really see the growth in both areas from a curriculum point of view, but also from an academic point of view as well. And I'll tell you a bit more about the course as we go through here. Importantly, this is approved by the Department for Education. It's 100% internal assessment and coursework, and there are no exams as part of this. It's all project-based learning, scenario-based learning, presentations, pitch decks where they'll be presenting their own business ideas, creative methods of assessment, some written assessments as well, and as I said, some year-long projects that they'll take part in. So from esports and education as a start point, this is a really useful infographic that we always share with people as a start point. Importantly, at the top, we're talking about those skills once again. I remember my first memory of playing any sort of video game, and I'm sure lots of people watching this will remember theirs. Thinking about actually competing and playing with other people, and what that may have looked like 10, 20, 30 years ago, being in the same room as somebody and playing together on a console or on an arcade machine, or having a 4-player split screen, whatever that may be, setting up a private party or private lobby in your home or in student accommodation, whatever that is. Now it's different because we're online. So the generation of young people now that are coming through our education system, they've been playing these games online, many of them since they were 3, 4, 5 years old. And through being part of teams and through competing, they've already got a lot of these skills that are highlighted at the top. And what the Student Championships does is it then further embeds those skills and develops those skills. Alongside that, then we have our education programs linked to a variety of careers. So we have the roles in esports, and there are a multitude of roles that are emerging daily and weekly in esports as the industry professionalizes. Lots of different academic links, and as you can see, it's quite cross-curricular in that we're covering aspects of computer science, IT, the sciences, technology, maths, STEM learning, and those STEM careers. business studies, sport, and I'll show you some of the modules that are studied in a second, and that can then lead on into interest in other careers. So that's a really useful one for everyone to sort of grab and to have as a resource that you can show to other people in terms of some of the benefits. In terms of the modules and in terms of the units, we've got 4 different qualification sizes at level 3. We have a level 1 qualification, a level 2 that feeds into this. And then at level 3, as you can see there, we've got qualifications ranging from 360 guided learning hours, which is 1 A-level equivalent, 540, 1.5 A-levels, 720, 2 A-levels, and the 1080, which is equivalent to 3 A-levels. And at the highest level, if a student was to achieve distinctions in all of their modules, they would receive 168 UCAS points and a D-star, D-star, D-star profile, which is an equivalent to an A-star, A-star, A-star profile from a traditional A-levels route. There are a number of mandatory units and optional units depending on the size that you choose and depending on your institution, whether you want to run a 1-year program, whether you want to run this as a 2 or 3-year program, depending on the needs of your students. And I'm just going to try and split this into 4 key areas so that you can understand the 4 key industries that really that this feeds into, and where this is incredibly unique and is unlike any other program that at a vocational level it's cross-curricular, that it goes into these other industries. The first of which is esports. So how are we studying esports, and what are the esports units? It's things like Unit 1 and Unit 2, an introduction to the esports ecosystem and industry, looking at skills, strategies, analysis for esports teams, esports professionals, esports players. We've then got some of the other esports specific units, things like shoutcasting, or you could put class games design in there, looking at games development. The next part to that is then around the creative media side. So thinking about some of those creative media subjects. Unit 6, live stream broadcasting. Unit 8, video production. Again, games design and games development feeding into that. Thinking about units 19 and 20, customer immersion experiences and computer networking. You've then got a real business core running through the qualification, which starts at Unit 3, which is enterprise and entrepreneurship. So we're looking at creativity, innovation, creating your own business ideas, doing a Dragon's Den pitch to try and pitch a business. What that then does is it links into Unit 7, producing an esports brand. And it also links into Unit 10, which is business applications of social media. So how do we actually create a brand and then promote that brand and promote our business? And then moving further down, you've also got sports and esports law and legislation, which is really important from a business perspective, but also linking into the sports perspective and the tournament side of things. And Unit 18, launching your esports enterprise. So actually creating a business and running a business and launching a business, which students will do in the second year. And then finally, you've got the sports angle, which is health, wellbeing and fitness for esports players. So what is health? What is wellbeing? What does fitness look like? Why is that important in relation to health, in relation to career longevity, in relation to general lifestyle, and also the positive benefits of that on performance, things like concentration and reaction time, for example. Esports events. How do we create an esports event? How do we produce an esports event? What are the roles? What are the risks? What are the contingencies? What do we need to be aware of? Which again is another really good example of students running their own events and developing that skill set. We then look at esports coaching, so getting students to build on the knowledge that they've got of skills and strategies, analysis and games, and start to coach other players. That then links into psychology for esports performance and nutrition for esports performance. So how are we dealing with things like stress and anxiety and arousal and motivation and personality and these huge live events and these huge moments that players are going into? And how does diet affect all of that? How does diet affect your performance and also, again, general lifestyle and general health? We look at the ethical and current issues involved in sport and involved in esport. And then we also look at corporate social responsibility in sport as well. So what are the big organizations doing now? And what is CSR? And what are the policies that exist? And what are the activations that exist in and around the space? So what this does is it gives students a really broad understanding of the ecosystem. And because we're in year 3 now, we're starting to hear some fantastic success stories that are coming out of schools and colleges. One example is a college reported 100% attendance during the first 6 weeks of this program when it launched, which is virtually unheard of in many institutions. Students are now progressing on to this variety of career pathways. into esports degrees and onto esports degrees. In the UK now, we've got 39 different esports degrees from 15 different university providers where students can progress, and there are more coming next September. Students are progressing onto games development courses and programs. They're progressing into events management, into coaching, into business, onto enterprise entrepreneurship. We've had students progress into law, into finance. So what this is doing is it's really engaging students at that key age, at that school leaver age. It's providing them with an opportunity to study something that they love and are passionate about, that can then foster interest in careers and in progression routes. A really good graphic, again, for you to take a note of or a screenshot of. And we've had permission to share this. This was developed by Nico in France, and is kindly let us use this graphic as well. And this shows, again, that variety of career pathways that are related to esports and to the esports industry, that as a result of engaging with people at the right age, they can then find these opportunities to go into some of these careers. Alongside that, and some of the ones that I've mentioned already, we've done lots of work with British Esports with the military, in helping the military to set up their own esports clubs and organisations, looking at combat and isolation on training bases, looking at connecting people within the military so that they're able to develop those leadership skills and communication skills. There's lots of crossover into things like the public services, into call centres, into people that need in today's society to actually be sat in front of a screen with a headset on, communicating just like I am now. And again, that goes back to gamers, and people are actively recruiting gamers because they have this skill set. And through schools, through colleges, we're able to develop this further. In terms of what that looks like across the UK, as I said to you earlier, we've now got over 200 approved centres and over 5,500 students studying. So you can see the pins on the map there. There may be somebody near you looking at that map now that is delivering this already or that is approved. So again, if you're looking at that map and you're thinking, I'm where one of those pins are, chances are that there'll be somebody near to you that we can put you in touch with who's already doing this, who may be able to support you as well. But what we're starting to see again here is this growth and this fantastic opportunity to connect young people, to connect regions, to connect cities, to connect schools and colleges. As I said, we can have on one week, you could be in Scotland competing against somebody in Northern Ireland or the south of England. The next week, you could be competing with somebody in Wales or within the north of England. So we're seeing some really good opportunities here for students to really develop themselves professionally, develop this skill set, develop their cultural capital so that they're actually having experiences a little bit broader and wider than just outside of their location. Next up is then what we're doing in Sunderland. So this is really exciting for us. We're developing the National Esports Performance Campus, which is due to open at the end of the summer this year. So we're really excited about that. It's a significant investment from us as British Esports. We are a not-for-profit organisation as British Esports, so this really does show you an example of our reinvestment and how we're really trying to inspire future talent, how we're trying to improve standards, how we're trying to raise awareness further of esports. So we're right next to the Stadium of Light in Sunderland in terms of where our first part of our campus is going to be located. This is the area that we've bought here, which is going to be our arena space. And this will be integral to our goals as British Esports over the coming years. It'll be the home of our national teams, as I mentioned to you earlier, Team GB, and it'll be a space where when we go into these national events that we'll be able to host our performance camps. It'll also be a space for education, for innovation, for businesses, for incubation, for acceleration, to really try and support and develop the esports ecosystem and infrastructure. Here are some photos of what it looks like at the moment and a mock-up design, an initial mock-up design of what that space is going to develop into. Essentially, this is going to provide a home. You know, it's going to help us to achieve our goals and to try and really drive forwards what's happening in the UK as a leading federation around the world. And as I said at the start, you know, we are the first national federation that are developing a campus and infrastructure like this. We've got a few other mock-up images to show you, you know, and really this is going to be a place where we can start to foster that talent, to attract businesses, to attract investment, to create jobs in and around the ecosystem. We're going to have a 250-seater arena as part of that. big 17-meter screen, 17 meters wide, 3 meters high on the stage, where we'll be hosting events, we'll be hosting tournaments. There are going to be content creation studios, production studios, students, young people will be able to come here, game work experience. They'll be able to practice using state-of-the-art equipment and state-of-the-art facilities. Across the other side of the water, then, you can see down at the bottom of the screen, we've got the hub and houses. This is the second part of our campus, which is a 3 or 4 minute walk from the train station. And as you can see there, we've got this self-contained sort of rectangular shaped campus with a courtyard in the middle. And what that space is just over an 18,000 square foot building. That's going to be an esports and gaming hub. We're going to have office space in there. It's going to be that incubator space for young entrepreneurs, young startups to come in and start their own businesses. It's got that self-contained courtyard, food and beverage. It's going to be a venue for events. And again, we've now purchased that space. It's under construction, under development, and there'll be the site that Sunderland College are delivering their BTEC esports programs from in September 2023. So it'll be open and ready by September. Part of that development along one side here are these 3 houses. So these are 3 team houses and 3 gaming houses for esports teams, for performance camps, for boot camps. As part of the campus as well, we're going to have performance rooms and boot camp rooms. So as a school, as a college, you can come and stay. You can have a residential experience. You can have a 2-day, 3-day, week-long, weekend-long stay where you can come and experience all of the kit and all of the equipment. You can stay overnight. I think we're going to have 28 beds across these 3 houses. And essentially what you've got here are 3 grade 2 listed buildings set across 4 stories. Basement level is bedrooms and bathrooms. Ground floor as you walk in is a big open plan kitchen, living room, dining room, where we want teams to sit together. We want people to cook. We want people to sit at a meal table, use a knife and fork. Lots of things that are lost often on today's younger generation, where we really want to start to foster those environments. Up on that first floor, huge open plan living area spaces there that'll have games machines, TV screens, big sofa areas and communal areas, and they've got a lovely sea view as well. So that's a nice space. And then as you'll see up in the top of the houses in the roof void, we're then going to have the boot camp spaces and performance spaces that'll have 7 state-of-the-art gaming PCs in, where teams will be able to train and will be able to practice. We'll also have replicas of those spaces within the rest of the campus as well. So this gives you an idea of the shape of the campus and what it looks like. Across the top corner, you've got the houses, with one house with an extension on the back, the courtyard in the middle, and then the rest of the spaces is all going to be office spaces, esports classrooms, and some of those boot camp rooms and performance rooms. We're already talking to teams from around the world about being able to come and book in to use these spaces. As I said at the start, there's nothing like this anywhere else within the esports ecosystem, so it's really exciting. I can see somebody in the chat said pretty cool. Yeah, we think it's pretty cool. We're really excited about it, and it's the sort of space that we'd love to welcome you to as a school, as a college, to be able to bring students to come and experience these facilities as well. Just before I sign off and leave you with a few thoughts, I just wanted to flag this slide back up again, just as an example that hopefully now through that quick whistle-stop tour, you can see some of the opportunities that are here. You can see how skills are developed through esports. In the UK today, we have over 40 million gamers. And in 2018, a piece of research was done that said that 99% of 8 to 15-year-olds play video games. So this is our audience, within education. These are the people that we're hoping to engage with here. We've just done a really significant piece of research with our hardware partners, Dell and Intel. So we interviewed over 700 secondary school age children, and we asked them about careers and qualifications. Over half said that they valued a qualification in esports, and again, over half said that is something that they would recognise as being able to help them to get to university. So everything that we've done around research and young people is telling us that this is something that's wanted, that's needed. Hopefully you can see this is not about playing games. The Student Champs is about playing games. The Student Champs is about improving, is about performance. The qualification as you'll have seen from those units, there isn't a practical playing, gaming, esports unit in those qualifications. These are about the skills and the jobs for the future and for future roles. So look, we've seen lots of young people now already turn into esports as a career path through these esports education programs that are moving on to careers, apprenticeships, higher education programs in a range of industries. Again, whether that's esports, events management, business, finance, law, entrepreneurship, games development, or traditional sport. Thinking about the students that you're working with, that'll be in schools, that'll be in colleges, they're technologically advanced. They have this love and they have this passion. They're already doing it at home. So this is about how can we bring this into the classroom? How can we support them? And how can we meet them where they are with something that they're passionate about? They often have this set of skills that I've been talking about, but they might not recognize that themselves. So again, it's about how can we give them confidence and get them to realize that they are able to communicate, that they are able to think strategically, that they are able to be part of a team, that they can lead other people. As educators, it's our job to be able to harness that passion through innovative pedagogy to enable students to not only realize they have their skills, but to then connect them to the workplace. We've got to also try and educate employers and ensure that they're aware of these skills and provide the opportunity for employers to reach this generation and this pipeline of talent. A few questions that I'd leave you with and points for you to ponder really would be, does esports present an opportunity for our students, for our communities, for cities, for our nation to become more digitally connected? Does it support a more sustainable, regional, national, international, global infrastructure through technological advances that helps us to actually meet local skills improvement plans, national skills gaps, work towards digital economy that's a thriving economy in the UK, and prepare students for digital futures? And also within your areas, how can esports form part of the town and the city regeneration strategies and plans to reattract young people back into city centres, to create communities, to connect people with jobs, just as we're going to be doing in Sunderland as well? And I've seen that done fantastically through some local schools and local colleges and how they're working with their local authorities and local councils to really start to develop digital skills in places as well. So I hope that's been insightful. I hope it's interesting. I think that there's lots that have been covered today which looks at the large ecosystem. But if I just backtrack to 2018, which is where I started with nothing, we started in my college with no esports infrastructure, no esports facilities, no esports programs, just recognizing that there was a need. I think the best place to start with this, and I've just seen there's a similar questions come up in the chat as well. As a small school, where should I start with this? I think first of all, it's about trying to explain that to senior leaders, to managers, to stakeholders, to parents, to careers advisors who need to understand the potential. And then secondly, how can you create the environment that allows students to engage with this? So do you have facilities already in IT suites, in games development labs, where actually the PCs would be able to run some of these games? You might have the infrastructure in the school already. You might be going through an upgrade over the summer, and it might be that a simple graphics update is required in the machines that you already have. Or it may be that there's a small budget to be able to buy new equipment, or that locally there's funding to be able to support some of this. In terms of actually starting a team and entering a competition, one of the easiest places to start that we always advise is, if you've not done anything with esports before, is in Rocket League. It's a 3v3 game. So 3 machines at relatively low cost, or 3 machines that you have already. 3 of your school PCs will probably be able to run Rocket League, and you can start by entering a team. That's always the best place to start. Start small, start by entering a team into student champs. And as soon as you do that, you'll see the impact that this has on the school, on the community, on the people that are involved, on the people that want to come and watch, that want to be a part of it. And then naturally you can grow from there. We've then seen schools and colleges develop full facilities, they develop full labs of esports equipment, and that's where through the BTEC education programs, because they're funded qualifications, students are able to use that funding to then also develop and support their infrastructure as well. In terms of the PC recommendations, we've got a document on our website which again talks you through the hardware side of things and what we recommend as sort of a minimum requirement. Also from a Pearson point of view, on Pearson's website, so if you type in Pearson Esports, they've got a landing page for the Pearson qualifications as well, which talks you through, again, centre requirements, what's needed, how to get started, what you need to think about from a staffing perspective, what you need to think about from a hardware perspective, how to go around about some of the games licenses, etc. So we're here to support ultimately. My email address is on this final slide. So again, if anyone's got any burning questions or there's anything that you can't find on the website and you need me to point you towards it, please do get in touch, send us an email, let us know, and we'll try and put you in the right place. And as I said to you at the start, I hope that's been insightful. It's exciting for us. I hope it's just as exciting for you. And we look forward to supporting you on your esports journey and welcoming you into British esports and our various activities. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kalam. That was a very detailed talk, and I've no doubt that the recorded session will get a lot of viewings from anyone who couldn't make today's session. And we'll apologise for the audio during the video. I can assure everyone it did work during testing, so we shall be looking into this after that. What we'll do now is go for any more questions that may have got overlooked in the chat box there, and if Sean wants to post them up, I'll read them out. Okay, a document on the technical methods of getting these games licensed, installed, updated and working via a lockdown school internet and computers for, basically, how do schools manage the games?
Ultimately for every school is different. Every school will have a different network. Every school will have a different policy around how they're providing access. What we can do is we can support you with that. So there's the IP ports document. So if people go into the Student Champs Handbook, that tells you then all about the IP ports and what needs to be open to be able to look at how to actually run the games and run the titles. Ultimately, from a school perspective, the director of IT, safeguarding leads will need to be involved in those conversations around what can you open up, what sort of risk may that pose to the network, how can you safeguard against that, what firewalls need to be in place. Some centres have gone for different lines, so they'll have a different network line into a specific room or onto a specific machine. Some centres have separate logins, so they'll have Esports 1, Esports 2, Esports 3, which is not the usual student login, which have different permissions on, which are controlled by members of staff. So ultimately, I think it's a conversation internally to find out what the barriers are, what the potential risks are, and if there are any obvious solutions internally. As a second point, we can then support those conversations. So if you do come up against a barrier and you need a call with any of our team, we can help you with that. Also, we have a Discord community with all our teachers on, and as I said, we've got hundreds of centres now that are delivering the championships and the qualifications. So if hundreds of other centres have found ways around it, there'll be definitely ways that your centre can take, and the community is incredibly supportive. It's daily that these types of questions are asked. I'm coming up against this issue, or I've had a block, or this is a barrier, and people within the community automatically will have solutions before we even need to help you as well. But we are there to help. So again, I would say please do get in touch once you've had those conversations, and if you need us to have a call with anyone within the school or within the college, then we can certainly do that.
Okay, brilliant. Do we have any more questions, Sean? I don't think so. There is one I thought of actually when we were doing that. I know you covered schools doing basic upgrades to PCs to get them up to spec to do minimum level of gaming. What kind of quantity of PC do they have set aside for the esports curriculum? So say if you've got a class of 30, what kind of, if you know this, what kind of percent, how many would they require in a classroom? Because obviously you're going to have some running the event, some doing other things.
Yeah, and again, it's different for everyone. There's no set answer. I suppose the first consideration there is, if you are designing a space, do you want to design a space that's got one PC per student as an initial question, which some people do, but also might not have the budget to do that. So in that first year where I developed space, we had 14 PCs, and we had 36 learners across 2 classes. So there was never one PC per person. So then what else can we do with the space? How can we get people paired up, working together? Not everyone needs to be on a PC at all times, because not everyone needs to be playing the games at all times, because you'll be delivering the event, or you'll be coaching, or you'll be leading the events when those are needed. Also, the whole curriculum doesn't need to be delivered in a PC lab. So we used our sports facilities for the health wellbeing units. We used normal classrooms for the business units. We used our previously existing games design suite for the games development unit. So ideal scenario, of course, we'd all love to have one PC per student in a class of 25, 26, 27, 28, up to 36 if possible. But I totally appreciate that's not going to be realistic or achievable for most. So I think it's about, if you're thinking of running the curriculum, having the access to the hardware when you need it. And again, that can be timetabled, that can be on a rolling basis if you've got a number of groups that are studying the qualifications. But I suppose it's just having enough to be able to service the amount of students that you're going to have. Again, everyone has different class sizes. Ideal scenario is 1 per student, but if people are working in pairs, then that's fine as well.
Okay, brilliant. I don't think there's any more questions. Now, if anybody does post something up or it comes up on the forums, will it be okay to drop your line and pass these on?
Of course, yes.
Brilliant, wonderful. Okay, Kalam, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. That's actually been a really, really informative talk, and hopefully we'll catch up again in the future.
Brilliant. My pleasure. Nice to meet everyone. Thank you.